Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about meanders. Let's talk about what a meander is first. So, a meander is just a curvy stream. And the reason meanders are so important is in earth science, especially this unit, is that because meanders curve, there's lots of weathering and erosion going on because of the curvy movement of this water. Let's take a closer look. So, erosion happens where the flow hits the side of the river flowing downstream. So, what this means is, say I have a river, right? This river is flowing and it starts to curve because the corners or the sides of the river are starting to get eroded, or the particles are being moved away from one location to the other and then deposited somewhere else. So, this river is starting to erode away sediments from this side, and then it starts to deposit sediments here. Notice that again. It starts to erode away sediments, deposits sediments here, and then it starts to erode away more sediments here, and then it deposits sediments here. So it starts to create a curvy stream called a meander, and because of the erosion and deposition going on in the different parts of the stream. So, to remember where deposition and erosion is happening, think of a capital letter D, okay? Say D marks deposition where the sediments are being deposited or put down, and then E marks erosion where the sediments are being um, carried away, okay? So, if you draw a capital D, and wherever that capital D fits, just like in this picture, wherever capital D fits perfectly is where my deposition is happening. So, say I give you a curvy river and I ask you, where is deposition happening and where is erosion happening? Just draw the letter D. D fits perfectly here. The letter capital D fits perfectly here. Deposition must be happening here. The letter D also fits perfectly in this area. So, deposition must be happening in this area too. Notice a capital D would not fit perfectly here, so that must mean erosion is happening here. Erosion must also be happening here. If I drew a capital D over here, deposition would happen here because a capital D, just like here, would fit here. I know deposition would also happen here because I could fit a capital letter D right here, just like here. So wherever your capital D fits perfectly is where deposition is happening. Where it's not is where erosion is happening. So that's why if I have a curvy river, deposition is where the river is flowing slower, so it deposits sediments. So that's a key thing to remember. The reason the river is starting to deposit sediments here on this part of the stream, and then it's coming here in this part of the stream, is because the river starts to slow down in those areas. When a river slows down, it starts to deposit its sediments because it doesn't have the energy to continue to carry it anymore. Now, wherever the river is flowing fastest is where it's going to start to erode the sediments, meaning carry away the sediments because it has the energy to do so. The faster the river is, the more erosion there will happen. Wherever the river is flowing a little slower, for instance, here and later here, is where deposition is happening. Okay, so wherever deposition is happening is where my river is flowing slower. And I know this by putting capital D's in those locations. If they fit perfectly, I have deposition in those areas. And erosion is happening where the river is flowing fastest because it needs that energy, right? And erosion is going to happen wherever my capital D does not fit perfectly. So if I kind of like this, right? I could not draw a capital letter D in these areas perfectly. And if I give you a clear image of all of that, this is where our deposition will happen, the D, and E is where our erosion will happen. Let's You already actually have this in your note packet. Just remember, in streams, erosion will happen where you can't fit a capital letter D, and deposition will happen where you can fit a capital letter D. It also helps me to think that deposition will happen on the inside curve, and the erosion will happen on the outside curve. Now, let's try number 3. Go ahead and pause this video, try number 3 on your worksheet, and then come back to this video. The photograph below shows a portion of the Genesee River in western New York. Letters A, B, C, and D are locations in the river. At which location would deposition of sediments most likely be greater than erosion? The correct answer is C. I can try drawing a capital letter D everywhere in A, B, C, D because I want to know where deposition is happening. And if I draw a capital letter D in this area, it actually fits perfectly into this curve. So that's why the correct answer is C. Okay, now when a river is flowing straight, like in this area in A, the fastest part of the river is actually in the top middle area, kind of like this. This area A is right here, okay? And the slowest part of the river is actually in the very bottom. But what about when a river is curving like this? Remember, deposition happens on the inside of the curve or where you can draw a D, and erosion happens on the outside. If a river curved like this, the faster part of the river would be where erosion is happening because the river needs energy to erode or move sediments. So if I were to draw a cross section of B right here and I looked in the bottom of the river how the land under the river would look like, it would look something like this. Wherever is I have erosion, I'm going to have a faster flow. And because it's eroding in this area, it's actually going to be a lower area in here where erosion is happening. So this is the part I'm talking about. Wherever erosion is happening, erosion is when sediments are being moved away, right? So if sediments are being moved away from this area where we're having erosion and where the water is moving fastest, it's going to be a lot lower. The land is going to be a lot lower underwater because all that sediment is being moved away. Now, wherever I'm having deposition, for instance here, my river's gonna flow slower because it has less energy. That's why it's depositing these sediments. And because it's depositing sediments, meaning putting down sediments over here, my land will be a little higher. Kind of like this, right? I'm depositing sediments here. If I looked underwater, my land would be higher where I'm depositing. And wherever my river is flowing fastest or eroding, the land will be a little lower. So here's an example. Which cross section best represents the profile of the bottom of the river between points X and Y at location A? So here's a river. This is location A. And in location A, if I zoom in, here's X, here's Y. I want to know what the cross section will look like at the bottom of the river, meaning what will the land under the river look like? Now, for that, I need to figure out where erosion is happening and where deposition is happening. The correct answer is actually D. Remember, wherever you can fit a capital letter D is where deposition is happening. I can fit a capital letter D on the inside curve, so this is where deposition must be happening in X by X, and this is where erosion must be happening by Y. Now that I know this, in the erosion area underwater, my land should be lower because the sediments are being carried away from that area. And in the deposition area, my land should be higher because sediments are being deposited there. So that's why D is the answer, because Y, where erosion is happening, should be lower underground or underwater, and X, where deposition is happening, should be higher. So the river will be deepest on the side of greatest erosion. So what I want you to do is go back to your note packet and draw this in your note packet. You will be required to draw the cross section of the river or what the river looks like underwater where erosion and deposition is happening. And if X is where erosion is happening and Y is where deposition is happening, if you drew a cross section in the X area where erosion is happening, the river would be lower or the land would be lower, and where deposition is happening by Y, the land would be higher. So make sure you draw this cross section. Okay, so go ahead and try number 4. Pause this video and go ahead and try it. In the box below, draw a cross-sectional stream or a cross-sectional view of the general shape of the stream bottom from point X to point Y. So here's X, here's Y. To draw a cross section, first I need to find out where my erosion and deposition is happening. So my deposition will happen where I can fit a capital letter D, and that should be in the Y area, right? In the inside curve. And X must be erosion. This is where I can fit a capital letter D. So since X has erosion in the underwater, my land should be lower. And since Y is where my deposition is happening, my land should be higher by Y. So I draw a U shape almost, but my U shape is deeper near the X. So the X side has greater erosion, so it will be deeper. Go ahead and correct your answer or copy this down in your worksheet. So in summary, Erosion will happen on the outside curve, deposition will happen on the inside curve where you can fit a capital letter D, and wherever erosion is happening is where my land is going to be lower underwater, and where deposition is happening is where my land is going to be higher. And that's it for this video.